Some of you may remember that a couple of months ago a big storm hit and I lost my greenhouse. This left me with a double problem, which was I didn't have a greenhouse anymore, but I also had that big space left over which I wasn't really sure what to do with. So I asked commenters on YouTube, and I'm really grateful for those of you that gave me all sorts of ideas. I've decided to change the space into a bit of a mini wildflower meadow. And I've also gone and got myself a little pop-up greenhouse so that it doesn't take up as much room, but I can still get a kickstart on having an earlier planting season. So the rest of this video, I'm just going to take you along and have a look at my process of how I'm going to ensure that that new pop-up greenhouse isn't going to escape like my last one did, and also how I'm making a start on my wildflower meadow and the sorts of species that I'm choosing to put in that. Here's the frame of the new pop-up greenhouse that I've purchased. It was quite a cheap thing because it's fairly small, but I think it will be the right size for the sorts of things that I want to do. And I also really like that there was no screwing it all together or anything like that. You just pop everything in and the pressure of it all holds itself together. I decided on this spot because it would be the easiest to secure it to the wall that I've got there, and it's about the right size for the size of the pop-up greenhouse that I've built. I've decided to weed a little bit first because I needed to make sure that the surface was even to be able to put the greenhouse on. It's on a slight slope, but the actual surface itself is even enough that I don't think that'll be much of an issue. I just needed to get some of these dandelions out of the way so that I could actually rest the cover without it bunching up against the top of the dandelions. And then obviously you needed to brush the surface as well, because once it's in place I won't be able to get underneath as easily. The next step was to bring the greenhouse frame outside and then also to put the cover on it. So it fit quite nicely because the borders of it line up against the outside of the trellis, so it wasn't going to be unevenly pressed against it. The cover process was a bit tricky to get on because I don't know if you can tell, but it's really windy today. So I was sort of fighting against the cover from trying to blow away and had to keep hold of that fully. And then once it was all on, I was concerned that the wind would swoop in and push it up. So I went and got a few of their heavy things from one of my sheds outside just to keep it secure while I went through the process of securing it how I'd planned to. This is quite a nice design because inside you've got little ties to make sure that the cover stays attached to the frame at all times, that you can just double knot up, rather than risk the cover itself just flying away and leaving the frame where it is. So the first part of my plan to make sure that this greenhouse didn't also leave my garden during one of the storms was to attach a series of cable ties to it and then secure those cable ties onto the trellis that's already bolted in the wall. So I did this by putting a couple of holes within the cover, both at the top and the bottom, and then getting the cable ties inside and fully tightening them. So you can see that I've got 4 cable ties attached to the back of the greenhouse, but then I've also got this really heavy bag of rocks that I've put at the bottom. I'd actually originally bought this to go into my other greenhouse, so at least I'm still getting to make use of this. I also added a couple of bricks that I had lying around my garden spare just to make sure that there was some extra weight in there to keep the chance of it flying away low. When I was at the garden centre, I also bought this new sort of coconut style bird feeder that's actually made from a degradable material, and I can reuse it as well, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. I bought a couple of different wildflower types, so the forget-me-nots, the foxgloves, and then there was a mix of different flowers and some yellow rattle as well. And I chose these because they added a bit of variety for different species. So some of them would have surfaces for pollinators that like a narrow sort of route to the nectar, and some really deep. I also got some peat-free compost while I was at the garden centre so that I could make a start straight away on getting some of these seeds sown, so that hopefully once I have sorted out the spot of where I'm going to put the wildflower meadow, these will be ready as little seedlings and have a higher chance of being able to survive in the quite wet and cold and windy environment that they're going to be sat in. I did also purchase some sunflower seeds. My ones last year didn't really turn out very well. I think the location that I put them in meant it was quite hard for them to grow once the little plants had actually taken root. So I'm going to try again this year, and they're not actually going to form part of the wildflower meadow area. I've got a different plan for where these are going to go, and I plan on making a video on that whole section of the garden later on in this year. Sunflowers are really great for insects while they're in bloom, and then they also can provide food for different bird species once they start to produce seeds. So I'm really hoping that these ones can be successful this year. So a little bit more on why I chose the flower species that I did. Firstly, this mixed packet of wildlife friendly flowers, it's sort of a surprise as to what's going to be in it. And the reason that I chose this is because they quite often produce quite a nice little variety, and new species that don't tend to get sold as individual ones can sometimes crop up and be really great for the variety of pollinator species that can visit gardens. For the yellow rattle, I actually chose this because it's really well known for its grass suppressing properties. So it is good for pollinators, but primarily what I want to make sure is that when I create this space that's going to be a wildflower meadow, it's not just going to immediately get overrun by the grass that's growing nearby my garden. So this is really just to create a base of a flower that will probably bloom more in the first year rather than some of the other species, but eventually will create this nice meadow that doesn't get overrun by all of these high nutrient loving grasses. Another species that I added to these trays was foxglove. I chose this one because it is well known for being good for bees, but it is also really good for moths. We often forget about the nighttime pollinators when we're trying to do wildlife friendly gardening, but they are a really important group of species because they support the whole nighttime ecosystem for other animals like bats and owls and mice to be able to thrive. And the last species that I chose to add into this mix was the forget-me-nots. And the reason for this is they are great for butterflies and bees, but they are also a particularly early flowering species, so they'll really help kickstart the whole pollinator life cycle at the very start of the season. All of these wildflowers that I've selected to grow within my meadow were listed as native species, and it was specifically said that they weren't plucked from the wild, so they're not damaging wild populations. They were grown to be sold as seeds. So I'm really hoping that that means that they will be successful in taking root once I do plant them out into this meadow space. Let me know if there's any other species you would consider adding to kickstart a wildflower meadow, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already so that you can follow along with the progress.